Ever since Apple unveiled the iPhone 3GS in 2009, the company has stuck to a strict TikTok pattern of phone launches. Tick, new iPhone with new features and a distinctly new design. Talk, a new iPhone with the same general look and a few extra tricks thrown in a year later. Well, that's over. Apple just broke free of that rhythm with the new iPhone 7 and 7 Plus, and at first it's easy to look at them as just another year's worth of modest updates. That's not entirely fair. These things aren't boring. Beyond just being the most technically impressive smartphones Apple has ever made, the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus might also be the most divisive iPhones in recent memory. Let's take a closer look. Before we go any further, yes, the 7 and 7 Plus look a lot like the 6S and 6S Plus. Apple clearly thought the iPhone body we've been using for the past 2 years still had some mileage left in it, which is a little disappointing. The 7 and 7 Plus are as impeccably put together as always, but Apple's own cadence trained us to expect something new. I'll get over it, I guess. We do, however, need to talk about their new finishes. Both bodies are made of the same 7000 series aluminum, but while the matte black model looks exactly like what you'd expect a black iPhone to look like, the new jet black finish is a sight to behold. This version of the 7 and 7 Plus, more than any other, feels like a single cohesive piece of hardware because the glossy glass screen feels just like the glossy metal body. It's beautiful, until it starts picking up fingerprints and scratches. As usual, the 7 and 7 Plus are mostly identical, aside from the obvious things. Both are finally IP67 water resistant, so you don't need to worry when they fall into your beer, and they start with 32GB of storage. Both have stereo speakers that are significantly louder than the ones we got in the 6S siblings, even though they're not quite as immersive as the HTC ones used to be. Screen sizes and resolutions haven't changed either, but the 7 and 7 Plus have wide gamut displays that look more vivacious and punchy, if not actually any crisper. Both run the company's new A10 Fusion chipset, a quad-core affair with 2 high-powered cores and 2 long-lasting cores that run about 20% as fast as the others. There's no actual difference in performance between the 7 and 7 Plus, in case you were wondering, even though the smaller version has 2GB of RAM compared to the Plus's 3GB. I restored these new iPhones from backups of our 6S, and the differences were immediately clear. There's almost no delay at all between when you tap an app icon and it launching, and in day-to-day use, I just kind of stopped thinking about performance altogether. That's the holy grail that these companies are chasing, performance that is so effortlessly good that you never need to pay attention to it, and Apple's getting really close. Even better, the 7 and 7 Plus have noticeably better batteries than the models that preceded them. The smaller iPhone 7 routinely got me through a day and a half before giving up the ghost, and I could usually count on the big old 7 Plus to stretch into 2 days. They did well in our standard rundown test, too. The 7 looped a video for a hair under 12 hours, and the 7 Plus stuck it out for just over 14. Now, if you're keeping count, they both lasted for over an hour and a half longer than the 6S and 6S Plus did last year. Then there are those new 12-megapixel cameras with their fancy 6-element lenses and optical image stabilization even in the smaller iPhone 7. Frankly, they're incredible. More than just capturing crisp detail and lots of nuance, the 7 and 7 Plus are tremendously good at rendering colors that look natural and vibrant. Before today, I would have said the Galaxy S7s and the Galaxy Note 7s were the best all-around smartphone cameras, but now Apple is right there, neck and neck. Which is better is ultimately a matter of preference, but I came away enjoying Apple's results slightly more. The 7 Plus also packs a second camera for zoom, a trick that usually works more elegantly here than when LG tried it in the G5. Sometimes, though, the white balance of a subject changed as the phone transitioned from one camera to another, which was just kind of more weird than annoying. Most of the time, though, it's just a cool trick to have. There are, however, a few things that'll rub some people the wrong way, and I'm not just talking about this very familiar design. Getting used to the iPhone 7's new solid-state home button took me personally a lot more time than I expected. If you're an iPhone newcomer, you have nothing to worry about, but after years of clicking and double-clicking and long pressing a movable button, the shift to a button that doesn't move and makes the whole phone vibrate is just kind of jarring for a while. And of course, there's the elephant in the room, the removal of the standard headphone jack, a decades-old connector that many people just didn't see the point in giving up on. Don't get me wrong, the included Lightning earbuds and the Lightning to 3.5mm adapter work just fine with your old headphones, but the latter's almost certainly going to get lost at some point, and hey, there's no way to charge your iPhone and use headphones at the same time unless those headphones are wireless or you buy a pricey separate adapter. Look, I get Apple's rationale, and I personally don't mind the move all that much because A, the AirPods are pretty good, and B, I've started using the Moto Z pretty frequently, and that also doesn't have a headphone jack. Still, this backlash isn't going anywhere for a while, so I hope Apple's buckled in for the ride. At the end of it all, these are easily the best phones Apple has ever made, and for a lot of people, their search for a new smartphone will start and stop right here. I'd personally go with the 7 Plus because of its beefier battery and its zoomy camera. Then again, the lack of a headphone jack will just alienate some people, and still others will be disappointed by an approach to design and functionality that, to be completely frank, doesn't feel all that exciting. Apple chose evolution over revolution this year, and while the results are the most technically impressive iPhones to date, well, it's just going to have to deal with the stigma of feeling a little stale.